Huntsville. Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. I have water because I have allergies, so please bear with me. Hi. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for asking me out. It's an honor to be a part of this. The work that I've heard tonight is really inspiring and beautiful, and I won't live up to it, but I'm going to try my best. Yep. So I live right now in Clarksville, Tennessee, but I grew up on a farm over there in Florence. I don't know which direction Florence is. That way, yeah, you guys know. I lived there until I was 20, and then I moved out of Alabama. And this is the first time I've been back in over 15 years. So, yeah, it's really cool to come back to Huntsville. Yeah. So, as Kimberly said, this is my new poetry collection. Woo woo! Its actual official birth date isn't until Friday, but my publisher sent me advanced copies, which apparently they do when you're an author. So I have some of those tonight. The first poem I'm going to read is called An Excavation, and I have two dogs who I love terrifically and terribly. I'm so in love with these dogs, especially one who's a chocolate lab, super dopey. His name is Memphis, and I don't think I can count the number of times he's been in the ER or in ICU for eating things that he shouldn't. Those two dogs are in several of these poems, and they're in this one doing what they do best, which is destroy things. There's an epigraph from Marie Howe's poem, Prayer. An excavation. Even now, I can hardly sit here, Marie Howe. The dogs dig around the shed in the backyard, pull the earth from the edges of the building, hoping the rabbit underneath will dart out. This is everyday practice. Eventually, there's a hole big enough to crawl through, big enough to hide in. They keep digging, keep flinging the dirt into the air, and after the shed sinks, disappears, after the house is gone, the cars, the neighborhood, after the world turns inside out, we start over, moonstruck, silent. Sorry, I have talking notes here. You guys will have to bear with me. Points, next point. Okay, as I mentioned, I grew up on a farm. It was a small farm, and it was how we fed ourselves. It wasn't like making money farm, but we grew corn, and we killed a cow every year. Sorry, am I like falling? So we killed a cow every year, and we had this corn, and we also had a catfish pond. And so during the summer, we would go on the weekends, and we would fish, and then we would come home and we would clean the fish and would freeze some of them for the winter, and then we would fry the rest of them in the backyard and have catfish for dinner. So that will be part of this. And then also, I don't know if you're familiar with guitar, but there's this thing called a slide, guitar slide, that you slide on your finger. Some of them are glass and some of them are steel, and it changes the sound of the instrument, so that's in here as well. Sometimes it's confusing to people when I say this slide. This is called Call and Response. This is how I learned to drive. My father never said my name. He whistled between two fingers. He sang the theme from Star Trek as though it were an opera, loud and melodic with words he made up. He played guitar, pushed a glass slide onto his ring finger. It sounded like the hum of his gospel voice. I held my breath as long as I could count and thought of the cow that bawled as he pulled on the birthing calf's head, the legs stuck inside. You shouldn't be watching this. At night, under a flickering security lamp, he flipped a bucket for me to sit on, stripped silver skin from a live fish, ran a boning knife from head to tail, removed the insides, and fed them to the cats. The fish's eye moved back and forth until the head was gone. I practiced in the hayfield near the pond. He said I drove like my toddler brother, rocked the steering wheel between 10 and 2. The steering wheel was loose, I remember, and slick. It slid through my shaking hands as I drove by the pond full of catfish, burying themselves in the mud bottom. So my parents were gospel singers. That's how they met. They sang for gospel quartets that traveled the country, and they were at the same concert singing, and that's how they met. And so music was really an important part of my childhood. And so a lot of the poems in the book have music titles. So that call and response is a term in composition. We have phrases that are in conversation with each other. So that's what that's all about. Gospel singers, yes. Gospel singers meant that we went to church. And a queer girl in rural Alabama at a Southern Baptist church, you can guess how that went. So this poem will, it takes me to church. Still Psalm. In our slight, dim church, the teens sat in the back rows, boys on one side of the aisle, girls on the other. The girls passed notes about our dates the night before. Was he a good kisser? What movie did you see? Were you lonely? The boys flicked lighters, whispered loudly, played rock, paper, scissors. The girls stood and sang hymns. The boys sat, refused to join in. Some Sundays, the girls made it to the front to rededicate our lives, sometimes in 2s or 3s. Sometimes we laced fingers for prayer, slipped out to the bathroom for longer than we should. I had no interest in those boys across the way, except maybe for Joel, who had a hole in his heart, was scared to have surgery, and loved the preacher's daughter. But when Shelley sat with her leg against mine, her knees jutting from her skirt like pale rains, I sang louder and clearer, sank back into the polished wood of the pew, traced the letters of her name into my skin. I've never read that poem out loud. Yeah. Oh, what's next? Okay, so some of these poems are in sections, and I'll just have a little pause in between the sections so that you'll know what's going on. This poem, when my sister was 20, she disappeared, and she was kidnapped by her on-again, off-again boyfriend, and so this I wrote while she was missing. Means of restraint for my younger sister when she was missing. Murderers, we said, won't come out during a storm. Those lightning-bleached nights, we were safest. Once, in the calm, we saw from our bedroom window a man walking down the one-lane road, a road with no visible neighbors. There was moon enough to see we didn't know him. He walked past and kept walking. That night, your leg against mine put me to sleep. I dream of tornadoes, my back against a collapsing wall. I taste metal, sweat, I wonder why. I turn away from the door of our room. A face in the window wakes me. Another dream. I move a chair underneath the window, stand on the seat to look out. A tractor on fire rolls slowly past. Our Father, the belt, how many times did we pack our bag, make it to the door? How many times did you say my name, look to me to protect you? I watched the moonflowers open beneath our bedroom window. Your leg against mine was a promise that if someone took one of us, the other would know. a year now, and I cannot find you. She's okay now, by the way. He's in prison, she's at home, everything's good.
Yes.
Dissection Day, biology lab. When they brought out the frogs, already cut open, skin pinned back, organs displayed pristinely, my heart sank. We don't have enough for each of you and not enough time, they said. I wanted to slice the abdomen myself, throat to anus, open the animal like a package. It was discovery, learning the internal, what carries life. Focus, too, the need to slow down, draw out each millimeter of movement. One slip of the scalpel and the body ruined. I learned this with the earthworm. Slow, straight cut, carefully pull back the skin, pin it to the black wax pad in the tray. Too close and it doesn't expose the organs. Too far and the skin rips, impossible to repair. Each organ should be touched gently, lifted to one side or the other with the care of playing pickup sticks or operation. It shut out everything. The girl who wanted to fight me, the girl I wanted in church, the girl with belt marks pressed against a white wall. The steady hand was non-negotiable. The revelation of that perfect skin, the release of what's inside. So the collection is divided into two sections. The first one are like farm poems, and the second one sort of traces, my husband and I moved from Tennessee to Wyoming, and then back to Tennessee, and we've been all over Tennessee, so these poems kind of bounce around. And the first one takes place in Knoxville, and it's a poem about, so there was a drive-by shooting at my house in Knoxville, and this poem is about that, and it's entitled Bullet. A pop of glass, the smell of burning metal. We were eating clementines, watching Food Network. Light pressed through a clean hole in each curtain, in through one window, out through another, barely a foot above our heads. We didn't hear the car slow, gunfire, tires screech. I don't remember turning off the television, but the room fell silent. I haven't lost anything, a few days, these panes of glass. When I was young, I thought the mice hurrying in the walls were demons sent to possess my body. I could hang a crucifix, we don't believe. A dream. We are back on the couch, talking. A man walks in. I know something is wrong. He pulls a gun. You don't see him. I hold up my hand as he shoots, feel the bullet enter my brain, see him walk to you. I feel paralysis, death, washing warm over me, and cannot remember to surface. Cats climb their way through the neighborhood. They run under cars, scatter from the backyard like mice under a kitchen sink. As cars slow in front of our house to miss them, I think, what's next? This is obsession, waiting for the break of glass, click of a pistol cocked. There's a hollow whisper of repentance in the trees. I hold my breath at night so it won't drown out warning signs. Listen to branches scrape the bedroom window. Midday, but something happened at night, and I could not sleep at night. Daytime I was fine, I could see, but at night I sort of became obsessed with what was happening outside the window. And so this next poem is about that too, after the shooting. I insist we aren't blessed until we lie awake full of silence that presses our bodies as we beg for hunger, a thunderstorm, war. Tonight, while you sleep, I listen for pre-dawn birds to awaken. The slam of a car door takes the shape of someone's fist thudding against the side of the house. A broken window will follow, he'll crawl inside, and we will fall to defending ourselves, sleeping, sleepless, and intruder. In my daydreams, I do not beg for mercy. I'm going to read one more from the book and then a couple of new ones, if that's okay.
Yeah.
This poem's called Acceptance. Fingertips numb, Jonah knew to pray. We imagine him 3 days, 3 nights in a cavern of belly, dark and hollow. But wasn't it stifling, full of tissue and muscle, working him down, down, and water? Like the water from the creek where my father burned our weekly trash, building the fire at the edge. We drank it, cooked in it, bathed in it, watered the hydrangeas, until the EPA told him it was a hazard. The creek stopped at the fringe of a cornfield, flowed underground, pooled there, muffled and filtering, then pumped through the well and into our pipes. The ash must have been thick in that underground earth, hard and black, magnifying the water's metal taste and smell. I always thought faith was something we are born with. When I think of you dying, I hand it off to something distant. It isn't today, after all. And then there's that notion of stardust, you, me, the carefully stitched hydrangeas, but also the mud, the burned trash, the fetid brine of the whale's belly.